Now, what all components are there in Power BI? If we can recall the yesterday's session also, what all components are there in Power BI? We have Power Query, we have Power Pivot, we have Power View, we have Power Map, we have Power Q&A. Now here the Power Query component is a ETL tool, which can be used for cleaning, loading the data. So all that transformations can be done. Usually what we call it as called as transformations in Power BI can be done using this Power Query tool. Now, what do you mean by Power Pivot? It is already a part of Power Query component only. It is inside the Power Query component. Now, there is a slight difference. We can only pivot means we can change the data from row to column or column to row. This is the primary use case of this pivot and unpivot component, which is already part of Power Query. See, this component is not visible. This component is already part of Power Query. Now, if I want to highlight part of Power Query, keep it to PQ, part of Power Query. Now, what do you mean by Power View? This is one more important component. This is front end of Power BI, where visualization can be done. This is the important component. Now, Power Map is part of Power View only because whenever you take a map visual, it is specifically called as Power Map when we take a map visual. Now, why Excel and Power BI are somewhat similar is, see, Microsoft at first developed the Excel component when Office was introduced back in 2000, start of 21st century. The Microsoft Office came into picture where they have introduced a package which also included Excel. Now, Excel is developed in such a way, see, for every component, if you take any example, for every product, there is a background system. Now, if you take an example of human being also, so for human being, the heart and brain are the most two important components, which will help us to completely manage our body. Now, just like if I specifically explain for Excel, there is a component called as Vertipack engine. This engine is the heart of Excel. Now, Vertipack engine, what does it specifically do? Vertipack engine means it will store the data, it will store the information in column format. Now, why only column format? Why not row format? I'll explain. So you should also know why Vertipack engine is more useful, why Vertipack engine is so powerful. That is the reason they have used that same Vertipack engine which they had in Excel, and they have continued to use it in the Power BI also. Now, Vertipack engine means it stores information in columns, somewhat like this. It stores information in multiple columns. Now, why multiple columns is, I'll take both. This is column and this is row kind of information. Yes. Now, if anyone is familiar with SQL component or just a normal understanding, whenever you create a table, so there are column names here. There could be name, there could be age, there could be some address, and there could be some contact, right? Now here also the same name, age, address, and contact. Now, where do we declare the data types? If anyone know, do we declare data types for each row? For name, name is a column. We declare what name is. Name is a string value. Name is a variable character value. Age is an integer value. Address is also variable character value, varchar value. Whereas contact is also an integer component. So wherever we declare data types, we declare data types in terms of columns. If you create column, for that every column we declare a data type. For every row, do we declare a data type? No. Here in case of row, so assume my name here itself. Here it is my name. I'll mention some random age. I'll mention some address. I'll mention some contact number, some contact number. So do we declare data type for this row? We'll never declare this. Row is from left to right. Column is from top to bottom. Horizontally and vertically, the information is stored. So in case of column, for every column, we declare a data type. In case of row, we never declare data type for a row. We declare data type for a column. So whenever this is row kind of information. Now, why Power BI and Excel are developed in a columnar databases? Whenever any information is stored in terms of column, it is very fast to grasp. Why? In case of columnar, in case of Vertipack engine, what it does is it comes to this table, it tries to fetch the information. Whenever it will fetch that information, it will first take first row, it will take complete, it will scan every information which is present in first row. Again, it will come down to the second row. Now in second row, the data type is different. So it will automatically adjust. Vertipack engine will automatically adjust and it will scan the complete information from top to bottom. Again, once the scanning of second column is done, it will come down to the third column. It will automatically adjust the data type to variable character, which is varchar. It will completely scan the address. Again, it will come down to the fourth column. It will automatically adjust the data type. It will scan the complete fourth column, which is contact. So if the time required here is 2 milliseconds to read the complete data, if you come down to the row information, for every row, it has to change the data type every time. Why? Because if that Vertipack engine is trying to scan this data from left to right, it will scan Ritesh. Now it has to change back to integer. It will scan 30. Again, it has to change back to variable character. Again, it has to change back to integer. Once this is done, it has to come down. It has to change for every row, it has to change the data type again and again. So it is a time consuming process here. If it is taking 2 milliseconds to read this complete table, there are 5 records, assuming there are 5 records. For 5 records, it will take 10 to 15 milliseconds to read the row wise information for 5 records. So that is how fast the columnar database is if you compare it with row related information. In case of row, it has to change the data type for every row again and again. For that reason, it is consuming some more time. Whereas in case of column, what it does is every information is completely set in table. So it will go and read the one column first. It will go and read the second column first. See, if it is reading name column, it doesn't require to change data type every time. Why? Because data type is same for one column. Complete column will have same data type. For row, every column information has to change the data type. That is the reason row related aspects will take more time, whereas columnar database is way more faster than row related information. So Vertipack engine is developed in such a way that information is read in a columnar format. The information is stored in a columnar form. Now, any questions on this? Or maybe you have a confusion on this.
I got it. Thank you.
So
Okay.
if I provide the name and age in the where condition, Ritesh, what happens? So first it will verify the column values first name.
Yep.
And then it goes to the age.
Age condition.
Okay.
So columnar means every time for one column, it doesn't require to change data type again and again. For one row, it has to change every time. If it reads the information from left to right, it has to change the data type here. It has to change the data type here. It has to again change the data type. It has to again change the data type. So changing data type is a slow process. That is the reason row related reading information will take slightly more time as compared to column. Now here also in columnar databases, there are disadvantages. I'm not saying just because it is fast, I'm not saying this has all the advantages. Yes, there are some disadvantages, there are some limitations also, but still, if you compare time, Vertipack engine will always be very fast. For that reason, why it will chooses a columnar database format. Now, the same Vertipack engine, which uses the column format, is used as a heart of Power BI. Even Power BI is developed by Vertipack engine. Now, why they have developed Vertipack engine, why they have used that same Vertipack engine is just because of time. Power BI is way more smoother than Excel. If the records in Excel, assuming that the number of records in Excel are around 1 million records. Now, what do you mean by 1 million? 10 lakh records. If you want to analyze this 1 million records in Excel, I'll damn sure, I'll guarantee you, 90% of the people will get confused what we are trying to do. Yes, Excel is feasible to handle so much of such amount of data. Yes, it is feasible. Everything can be done in Excel. But most of the people will get confused how to handle this 1 million data, where what kind of components are present. 1 million records, that means 1 million rows, and there are 10 columns. And I'm not going more than 10 columns also. If you take this 10 columns and 1 million records, most 90% of the people will get confused there in Excel, because Excel UI is bit complex. Excel UI is totally different as compared to Power BI. In case of Power BI, 90% of the people will be easily able to handle this 1 million records and 10 columns. They'll be easily handling this because what the Power BI UI is so easy. We can do, we can handle more than 10 millions also. Not 1 million, we can handle more than 10 millions. 10 millions means 1 crore records. Even we can handle 1 crore records easily in Power BI as compared to Excel. Can be handled easily. So that is one biggest advantage of comparing Excel and Power BI. Excel, one biggest advantage is for every cell, we have a separate, we can use a separate formula for every cell. If I open an Excel, I'll go back here. Let me open an Excel. Now, if I open a blank Excel, see here in case of blank Excel, we have a flexibility. We can check each and every cell. I can write anything here. For every cell, we can write an information. This advantage is not available in Power BI. This is the only advantage which Excel has. In case of Power BI, if you go back and check each and every cell, now if I open the transform data, if I open this, see here we cannot go back and change each and every cell information. That is one disadvantage as compared to Excel and Power BI. That is the only disadvantage. So there are advantages, there are disadvantages with respect to Power BI, with respect to Excel. We have to go back and see what advantages we have, but the UI is very easy. If you are handling 1 million records in case of Excel, as I've said, it is very complex. How to scroll down, how to manage so much amount of data. Where can, here in Excel also we can create charts. If I go to insert, here there are shapes, here there are models. You can see there are charts also here. There is a complete separate tab for charts as well. The same charts can be utilized here in Power BI, but Power BI is bit easy. The UI is straightforward. We need not get confused here.
Yeah. When both of them are using the Watipack engines, Ritesh, why is this Excel is becoming very slow, even though I have enough memory in my computer?
One example I've given you, the interactivity, the UI is a bit complex as compared to Power BI. Excel UI is, you cannot handle these many. Handling records is easy, but how to make sure these records are easily handled, you can create easy charts, that is not feasible in Excel. And Excel will act like a data source. It will never act like a reporting. Excel is never a reporting tool. It will act like a data source. Store data. Most of the people will use Excel for storing data, not for creating charts. Whereas Power BI is used for creating charts, not for storing data. So Power BI is specifically developed for reporting. Primary agenda of Power BI is only for reporting.
Okay, got it.
Now,
And I think just to add, maybe is it because of the compression, Ritesh? When the data is pulled into Power BI, there's definitely a backend compression happening,
yes,
which also
there
that we can
is,
handle data.
yep, there is always a compression happening. Now, anyways, you have come down. What does this Vertipack engine do? Assuming that you have a 1 GB of data set, you have 1 GB source or from where the data is getting pulled. Do you think this 1 GB source, whenever you pull it to Power BI, whenever you pull it to this Vertipack engine, do you think that Power BI size, the size of Power BI file which we would be storing, will it be 1 GB only? Or will it be more than 1 GB? See, whenever 1 GB data source is loaded to this Vertipack engine, it will compress that data. It will never ever use that same 1 GB source. The file size of Power BI would be somewhere around 600 to 700 MB. Maximum it could reach 750 MB. So there is a compression of minimum 25% of data. Minimum. That is the one of the biggest advantage of Vertipack engine, not with respect to Power BI, with respect to Excel also. Even Excel compresses that information because same Vertipack engine is part of Microsoft Excel. Now, we might have covered all these components, the Power Query, Power Pivot, Power View, Power Map, Power Q&A. Apart from these components, there are some other important aspects if you're working as a Power BI developer, which we need to consider. Now, prior to that, let me take an example. I want you people to answer this question. This is the example. Let me take a snap of it so that it is easier to guess. Now, with this snap, we have a table. That same table is interpreted in terms of visual, which is a chart. Now, if you see, usually iPhone cost is very high. If you compare the iPhone cost as well, the iPhone cost is 70,000 here, 75,000 here, 85,000 here. And we have only 3 phones which are sold for iPhone. I mean, the number of products are 3. And if you compare it with Samsung, the Samsung prices are a bit low, almost half of the or 60 or 70% of the iPhone, the price. But still, the number of Samsung phones are sold more. You can see there are 1, 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5. 5 Samsung phones were sold. And usually, what we think sales of iPhone should be more, but number of Samsung phones are sold more. That is the reason it is somewhere around 2,35,000 and the sales for iPhone is 2,30,000. Now, assuming that, anyways, we have got this visual representation. How do you make sure you see the difference? I mean, what is the percentage growth between these two components? How do we calculate that? Between iPhone and Samsung, forget about OnePlus. I'm not considering OnePlus. I'm not considering Vivo. Only focus on iPhone and Samsung. How do we find what is the percentage difference in sales between these two products? You have to go back to your mathematical formulas. How do we calculate that? Percentage difference or percentage difference in sales between two products, iPhone and Samsung. How do we calculate that?
Total sales.
Okay. Total sales means you have to consider both the companies.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Total sales. So total sales will be iPhone plus Samsung.
So by Samsung percentage.
Let
By
me do that.
Samsung sale. By Samsung sale, I mean by Samsung sales.
I've got you. I've got you. Let me do the addition first. It is 2,30,000 plus 2,35,000. So just 4,65,000.
Correct.
4,65,000. Now, what should be the second company?
By Samsung sales, 2,35,000.
Samsung sales. 2,35,000. And you should use a into 100 at the end for percentage. So what should be the ideal formula? 2 lakh should be 2,35,000 or 4,65,000 divided by 2,35,000.
Correct. Yeah.
So it should be like this: 4,65,000 divided by 2,35,000. That's what you're trying to say.
No, reverse, right? Reverse. It's going to be
2,65,000
by
divided by 4,65,000
correct.
into 100.
Correct.
I think this will be giving the Samsung market share, I would say, this formula. The overall sales,
Whatever we are doing, let's do that. Because for a data analyst, all these processes has to be done. 2,35,000 divided by 2,65,000 into 100. This is 50.53. I want percentage difference of sales between both the components.
This is the percentage. If it is 50% from Samsung and 40%, the same formula, if we apply for iPhone, we get 40. So if you minus 50 minus 40, 10%, right? Does it work?
This is sales for Samsung. What is the sales for Samsung? That is what I'm getting. I want differences. Okay, you want, okay, I also want to, you also want to calculate for Samsung.
iPhone also. So
Yeah,
iPhone might be
iPhone
getting
as
40.
well. Okay, let me do that. 2,30,000
By
divided by 4,65,000
correct.
into 100. Let me do
Yeah.
that.
Assume we get the 45%.
Okay, now
49.7,
Okay.
49.5.
50.537. 537. I'm only taking up to 3 decimals. Let me come down. I would do it for 2,30,000 divided by 4,65,000. This is what we got into
49.46.
49.462.
Yeah, the difference is 1%.
462. Now, what should be done here in that case? It should be
Yeah.
50.57
537.
minus 49.462. 50.537 minus 49.462.
Yeah, it's 1.07.
So is this correct?
It looks correct because the difference is very less. 235, 230. It's very less. So 1% makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, we are approximately close.
Correct.
See, this is one.
Yeah, hi Ritesh.
Yep, go ahead.
Instead of minusing, you add 50.537 plus 49.462.
If I add that,
You will
That
get
will be
exact
100%.
99.999 it will come.
what should be that condition? 99.991 means how
Means
would
we are taking for 100 percentage, right? Out of 100 percentage, first scenario is 50.537, second scenario is 49.462. There only it is matching, no? I don't know why 1.07% it is coming difference.
See, one more approach I'll tell. The approach which we have used, maybe we think that it is correct. It is not correct. This is approach 1. What is approach 2 is, we want to find difference of sales, percentage difference of sales between these two components, right? Now, what I'll do, I will first take 2,35,000 minus 2,30,000, which is equal to 5,000. This is difference of sales. Right? And second thing is, I'll take minimum sales, which is 2,30,000. This is equal to minimum sales component. And I'll multiply it by 100. Now, what I'll be doing, difference of sales is 5,000 divided by 2,30,000 into 100. This is the original percentage. Percentage difference of sales is this, 2.17. This is the ideal output which we want. Answer is 2.17. Even this 2.17 is not correct. I'll explain why this is not correct. The formula is correct. Difference of sales divided by minimum sales component into 100 will give us the exact percentage difference of sales. This is approach 2. Approach 1 is, it might look correct, but it is not correct. Second approach is also correct, but second approach is not 100% correct. I'll use one more approach, which will give you the correct condition. Approach 3, what we would be doing, same, difference of sales would be the first component. Now, what is the difference of sales between two components? It is equal to 5,000. Second component, I'll use average of both the components. What is the average of both the components? How can we calculate average? We should use 2,30,000 plus 2,35,000. How do we calculate average? If there are two components divided by 2. So what we get? 2,32,500 something. Is it correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, 2,32,000. Let's re-verify it. Plus 2,35,000 divided by 2. 2,32,500. Now I'll then multiply it by 100. I'll then multiply it by 100. Now, how is it possible? How will we do that? 5,000 is the difference, which is our numerator. Divided by denominator is 2,32,500. This is what we are getting into 100. The answer is 2.15. See, there is very slight change. I'm not saying the answer is, there is a drastic change, but there is a very slight change in terms of, if you share this answer with the client, he will be satisfied. I'm not saying he will not be satisfied. But if you're working on a banking project, if you're working on a project where the decimals also play an important role, in that case, this is the very correct answer, including up to decimal 4 pointers your answer will be considered. If you're working in any project up to decimal 4 pointers, 4 pointers is very high, but still you should consider minimum of 2, but take into consideration up to 4 pointers, your answer will be considered. So even this is correct, but this is more accurate. The last condition, the approach 3 is more accurate. There is a percentage difference of 2.15% between iPhone and Samsung sales. For a data analyst, you have to go back and see why this is calculated. See how percentage difference is calculated. Current minus previous into 100. Current minus previous by previous into 100. This is what the formula is. Percentage growth, percentage difference. So we have to find the percentage growth. Growth means iPhone sales is low, Samsung sales is high. What is the growth percentage? Difference and growth percentage are same. So this is the percentage difference or percentage growth of sales. Current minus previous by previous into 100 is our formula. But in case of formula also, what am I using? In third approach, I'm using average, which is 2,32,500, which will give us the more accurate result as compared to the first or the second approach, which we have used, which is in denominator, we are using minimum sales component. Even this is correct, but this is more accurate. So this component or these kind of analysis we have to do if you're working as a data analyst or if you're working as a Power BI developer. So we would be discussing all such situations wherever we come across, how to calculate, how to give us the exact output without any decimal changes as well. Your decimal pointer will play an important role.
Hi, Ritesh.
Hmm.
How did you calculate 2.17 percentage and 2.15 percentage? I didn't get that.
Now, how do you calculate percentage growth? Have you know, I mean, you know the formula for percentage growth or percentage difference also. Even growth and difference, both are same. Growth means it is plus, difference means negative. That's it.
Oh,
See, formula is current minus previous, current value minus previous value by previous value. So here we do not have any current value, we do not have any previous value. Current is your highest value, previous is your lowest value, again previous base is your lowest value into 100. This is what the percentage growth of sales is. This is the formula. You have to remember this formula. First thing, what we have to find the difference. Only then we will be able to give the growth. What is the difference? 5,000. How should we divide this 5,000? Either divide by minimum component. If you divide this by, let's do that way also. If I'm dividing 5,000, which is our difference, by 2,35,000 into 100. Even this is correct. 2.12 is also correct. But 2.12 is slightly lower than 2.15. 2.17 is slightly higher than 2.15. But the accurate answer is average. If you divide the average component in denominator, then multiply it by 100, this is the correct answer. 2.12, 2.17 is also correct. I'm not saying both are wrong. But in terms of decimal, you want to calculate approximate answer. 2.15 is the most correct answer. These are the
Okay,
formulas.
understood.
Remember these formulas. Any questions again? I'll take the approach 4 as well, because it is important to make sure what this decimal plays an important role. Difference of sales by maximum sales component and into 100. So this is giving you somewhere around, answer is 2.12. Even this is correct. But in terms of decimal, the approach 3 is the correct component. Here it should be equal to 2,35,000 in the denominator. So as a data analyst, it is our responsibility to go back and see whether what formulas we are using. Client will accept all three conditions: this condition, this condition, this condition. But you have to be more precise. Which one amongst these is more precise? This is the most precise component. There is a pointed difference of 0.02. That's it, 0.02. Here it is minus 0.02. Here it is plus 0.02. That is the only difference. But ideally, approach 3 is more accurate answer. Now coming down, see, important things as a data analyst you need to consider whenever you're working on Power BI. Important points to consider while working on Power BI. See, whenever you're working on Power BI, first and foremost thing, if you take a Power BI, now yesterday we might have taken the Power BI, I might have randomly loaded some visuals. I'm randomly loaded some visuals. Now, do we do the same thing for all the reporting purpose? No, we will not use the same approach. We have to follow certain rules. We have to follow certain conditions. These rules and conditions, I'm not saying they are prescribed by Microsoft organization. They are prescribed by the current market. They are prescribed by current industry, which you're part of. If you're working in Power BI, first and foremost thing, never ever randomly drag any visual and create or drag and drop the data to that. First thing, if you're working in Power BI, once you open this Power BI desktop, there are certain rules. Now, what that rules are, you have to go back and see what is your data, whether with that data, if you want to create a report, this page is enough or not. The size of the page is enough or not. Now, how do I make sure the size of the page? How to check that? If you're opening the Power BI web for the very first time, click on the white space. You are already in the white space. If you go to format your report page. See, if I drag and drop a visual, if I'm dragging a visual, for this visual, this format will work. Why? Because you have highlighted a visual. You have selected a visual. But if you are not selecting any visual, you are in the white space. That means you are in this page. This is page 2. For every page, there is also a format page available, format option available in this visualization tab. If you go here, you can see the information is highlighted. The name of the page, you can rename the page here also. You can rename the page, report page here. If I rename it here, it will be automatically renamed here, or else you can rename it here, it will be automatically renamed here. Now, Come down, canvas settings. In this canvas setting, you can change the page size. You can change the page size. You always have a flexibility. You can go back and change the page size. This is default size. 16 by 9 is our size of a screen. 16 by 9 is our normal size of a screen. 4 by 3. If I change it to 4 by 3, if you have seen, see the size have automatically changed. Earlier, this was the size. If I've changed it to 4:3, this is the ideal size. If I again go back, letter size. This will look like a letter, an envelope, rectangular size. There is one more option called as tooltip. See where this tooltip is used. Whenever we come across the usage of tooltip, I'll show you where to use this tooltip size page. At the last, there is an option called as custom. You can customize your height and width of the page. I'll go back to 16 by 9. I'll use a custom. Default is 720 pixel by 1280 pixel. This is the standard visualization format for any screen size. If you want to increase the size, height is top to bottom. If you want to increase it to 1000. See, height has increased. And I want to increase the width also. I'll increase it to 2500. You can see the size of the page has drastically increased. Within this page, you can do whatever stuff you want, you can do all that stuff. 1000 is the height, 2500 is the width. Now, how do I make sure the size of the page, this specific page is correctly fit? We have changed the size. Yes, accepted. If you go to the view component, in this view component, there is an option called as page view. If I check this page view, there are 3 options available here. Fit to width, actual size. Fit to page means complete page is not visible to us. This border is completely not visible, only bottom border is visible. Where are the left and right borders? Fit to width. You can see complete borders are visible. This page looks small for us. This is not small. This is very big in size. If I again use actual size, this is the actual size. You can see you have to scroll it. This is the actual size of a page. This is how big the page is. So formatting of a page is the foremost component. First component you have to take into consideration if you're working in Power BI. First thing is formatting. Formatting the page and size of the page. First component you have to take into consideration. Do you think that your ideal, which is 16 by 9, which is 720 by 1280 pixel, whether that size is suitable for any report which you are trying to create? If it is suitable, well and good. If it is not suitable, if the number of visuals are more, in that case, you can increase your size. Every organization uses some standard sizes. I'm not saying it will be same for all the organizations, depending on what project you are, what client you're working for, the size of the page, they'll try to give you certain size of the page. If they are not giving you, you have a free hand. You can go back and change as per your requirement. You can go and change as per your requirement. It is not required. Good. See, this is the actual size of the page. If I'm using actual size, I have to scroll it. If I go back to page 1, for page 1, even if I use the actual size, see, I'm not able to scroll anything. The scroller is small. And if I click here, if I go to canvas settings, 720 by 1280, that is the actual size of the page. Whereas in report page, the actual size is more. The scroller is also big. Why? Because width is also double the size of 1280. So that is how the difference plays an important role. If you want to see the actual size, go to view tab, click on this page view. Fit to page means it is visible only whatever page you have. If you click on fit to width, all the borders are visible. And if you use that last option, which is actual size, this will give us the actual size of the page. So size of the page comes first. Once size of the page is done, let me load some data. I'll go back, get data, click on more. See, these are all the options. I would be using text or Excel. Let me see. I'll use a CSV file. Mm, Let me load some data to this. Now I'll be loading Superstore data. Let's see how this data is there. See, once you get this data, once you are loading this data, it is asking you two options here, load or transform. If you directly click on load, it will never open the background window, this transform, which is a Power Query window. It will never open this. If you directly click on load, let us try both the options. I'll click on load. I've opened it in the background. That is the reason. Let me delete this and again reload it so that it is easier to guess. I'm selecting sample superstore. See, here you'll get that option. If I click on load, my Power Query window is not opened. See, the data is directly loaded. Load means you are directly loading the data. If I click on transform, so it will open a window. If I click on transform, transform means you are going back to transform tab, which is your Power Query. You want to perform some transformations. So it will open this transform window. So for first thing, if you think your data is correct, only then click on load. Unless if you don't know if the data is correct, always go with transform window. Why? Because it will open the Power Query editor and here it will give you an idea whether the data is correct or not. Now, yesterday we have loaded this sheet where I have manually changed the headers. I have promoted the headers, right? In the second component which we are loading today, you can see automatically it has promoted headers. Automatically it has changed the data types for each column. Whenever you load data, just like your columnar database, for every column, there is a specific data type assigned. How do you make sure the data type is checked? For row ID, this is the data type 123. If I click on this 123, what does this 123 signify? It is a whole number data type, integer whole number data type. Now, if I come down to order ID is ABC. Ideally, order ID is a combination of varchar. That means it's a combination of string as well as numeric data. So ideally, it should be ABC only because ABC can accept ABC as well as numeric data. Now, what do you mean by ABC? ABC is your text, ABC is your string format. String can accept both numeric as well as text format. Now, coming down to order date, if I click on this, this symbol is signifying date. If I will go back to this, if I'm changing this, see, I'm trying to change, add a new step. Let me add it as a new step. See, if you see here, if I've changed it to date, time is also getting reflected. We don't want time. Ideally, order date is only date. Time is not required. So I'll uncheck this option. It will go back to the default format. Now, if I again want to change, there are two options. If I want to change, it is asking me whether you want to replace the current data type in the same step or you want to apply it as a new step. I have applied it as a new step. Why? Because in future, if I want, I can come back. If I replace it here, see, it will change. There is no step added here, but it is automatically changing in that same step itself. So for us, it is difficult. Let me go back and change it to date, replace current, which is the ideal data type. You can see for every column, there is a data type assigned. If you want, you can change your data type as well. If you think this data type is not correctly taken by Vertipack engine, the Power BI engine, you can always go back and change that data type. For this is 1.2. That means it's a decimal data type, decimal number, because there are pointer numbers available. So first and foremost thing, whenever you transform the data, check whether the rows are correctly assigned, data types are correctly assigned. If at all everything is correct, well and good. Once that is done, click on apply. If you apply the changes, that changes will be applied in the front end, which is your Power View. The changes are applied. Now, first thing, what I've done, I have used a formatting of the page. Second important component is once you load the data, prior to taking any visuals, second component is loading the data. Data should be clean. Now, cleaning we will take a separate kind of information. Cleaning the data is important. Our data is almost clean. We have already seen how our data looks like. It's already clean. Everything looks good. Third important component, formatting of visuals. If you are working on directly, you're dragging and dropping any visual and you are dumping the data to it, it is not recommended. Once you format your page, for page also you can add a background. For page also you can add any image in the background, any color format in the background. If you're working in any project, you have to see what that client website look alike. Now, assuming that, let's take any examples. The sample superstore, this is a retail data. This is more a kind of retail data. Let me do one thing. Now that sample superstore is a retail data. So what kind of retail products or what kind of retail websites are available in market? You can take any example. Maybe Walmart. I'll go back. This retail data is a part of, see, Walmart, it's a retail corporation. Now I'll go back to images. Walmart is more in blue in color. Blue, yellow, uh, white is our format, yellow is their symbol, and blue in background, blue or brown in background. But usually, if you see, most of the part is blue in background. So we can use blue color shade for this report. Whatever report we are trying to create, we can use a blue color shade. Now, the page format is very high for me. I'll again go back and change it to the default format, which is good for me. For now, it is good. 1280 is also good for me. There isn't any problem. Now I'll go back to the view tab, page format, fit to page. This looks good. Now, if I come down, there is one more option, canvas background. What do you mean by canvas background? You can add a background to this page. Now, we have loaded sample superstore data. We would be working on sample superstore. So for this sample superstore, what could be the background? What can be the background? We can use it. Yeah, Anand, you have a question, it seems.
Ritesh, I was actually doing as you were doing on your screen. So on the visualization, when I install mine, right, it says format your visual, but I don't see that canvas background or canvas setting. I don't know if
You
the
have to
view
click
has
on
to
the
be
white
clean.
space. See, whatever I'm trying to explain. If you click on the white space, you are formatting the page. You are not formatting the visual.
Oh, okay, all right.
If
Got
you
it.
take a visual, it will only take that visual into consideration. But if you not, even if you take a visual also, see, I am taking an area chart, but I have clicked on this visual. That is the reason I'm able to see format for this visual. If I load data, it will open the format. But if I click on the white space is your page. Now you can see all these options in it.
Okay. And
So what?
just one more question. So you said yes, visual. What settings should we use? Should it should fit to the screen, or is it like
It is
depending
up to
on what
us.
format the company wants?
Ideally, whenever you are publishing this report, it should be fit to page.
Okay.
This is how it should look like. If you publish it like this, the client also will able to use this as a slider. This is not correct. If
Okay.
clients want to zoom in, he can zoom in from the Power BI service. Here also there is zoom in, zoom out window. At the bottom, you have an option called as zoom in, zoom out. You want to zoom out, you can zoom out. This will be normal, fit to page. It will come down
So
to fit to
basically,
page.
whatever option you choose when you publish, it will just
Yep. It
publish
will
it
publish
the
as
same
it
way.
is.
Okay. Thank you.
Whatever option we choose, it will publish as it is. So it is important to choose the correct option and publish it.
Yeah. Thank you, Ritesh.
Now I'll go back. In the canvas background, let me try to add. So anyways, we are working on this Walmart component. Let me try to add a color to. Or probably I'll add a logo. Now, how do I make sure the logo is added? Let me download. This logo looks good. Um, Save this image. I'll try to save this image somewhere here. This is our batch. Let me save it here. Image is saved. I'll go back. How do I make sure image is added in the background? Let me go to wallpaper. See, there is an option called as image here. Let me browse this. This is the image. Let me click on OK. The image is added. Now, what should be the image fit? This is normal. This is fit. This is fill. So there is a very slight change. I'll use a fit. Now, after you add an image is very dark in color. How do I make sure this image is kind of transparency is low? Now this looks good. This looks good. Now this is very far. I mean, okay, 60 or 70% is okay. Let me use 60%. This looks good. 60% transparency. You are reducing the background color of that image which you have added. You are adding some transparency to it. Now this looks good. There is no requirement of background color. Anyway, it is taking blue in shade. Well and good. I'll close this. Now coming down to, I have used a formatting of page. Formatting is done. This looks good. Now the component is, I have to add a visual. I have added data, which is cleaned data. So I'm not doing any Power Query transformations in the background. Now let me add a visual to it. Now I've added a bar chart. See, the first two important visuals which we would be discussing is one is column chart. Now what do you mean by bar chart? Bar chart flows from left to right. Column chart flows from top to bottom or bottom to top. Not top to bottom, it is bottom to top. Column means this is column. Usually it goes, in case of charts, it goes from bottom to top. This is how a column chart will look. Bar chart left to right. Even you can use right to left also, even that is visible. But usually in Power BI, it always goes from left to right. So bar chart is left to right, column chart is bottom to top. So only consider these two aspects first. And in case of bar chart and column chart, the first line which you're trying to see, complete first line is related to bar chart and column chart. And there are three different bar charts, three different column charts available. We would be discussing every chart in detail, but for now, only understand I'm taking a bar chart. Bar chart, I've taken this as a visual. Once I've taken this as a visual, let me add some data to it. Now I'm adding, what is x-axis and y-axis? How many of you know what do you mean by x-axis and y-axis? This x-axis and y-axis plays an important role. So that is what I'm trying to say. If you are learning Power BI, you have to go back to your schooling days. Your mathematics comes into picture. Your graphical representation comes into picture. This is x-axis. This is y-axis. This is y. This is x. If there is one more axis here, this is secondary y-axis. This is secondary y-axis. This is x-axis. And this is y-axis. This is secondary y. Already y is there. If you want one more y-axis, this is secondary y-axis. There is no secondary x-axis here. Now I'll go back to the report. This is x, this is y. Now in case of x-axis, I'll take some component. But how a bar chart flows? First thing is bar chart flows from this way. So in case of x-axis, it should be numeric value. In case of y-axis, it should be some character value. In case of y-axis, it should be some character value. Now, how I have decided, let me load some data, only then it will give you an idea. See, it is asking you y-axis first. Here in bar chart, it is asking you y-axis first. I've added a category. Let me add some numeric data in x-axis. In case of y-axis, I have taken categorical value. In case of x-axis, I have taken numerical value. Let me take this chart. What I'll do, this is a bar chart. I'll take a column chart. This is our column chart. This is our column chart. Let's see, it is going from top to bottom. Now, in case of column chart, you can see it is asking you x-axis first and then y-axis. Whereas in case of bar chart, it was asking you y-axis and then it was asking you x-axis. See, this also plays an important role. If you're using a bar chart, y-axis is important first. Why? Because y-axis will take this y-axis will take categorical value, x-axis will take numerical value in case of bar chart. In case of column chart, now why it is called as bar chart? There is a bar from left to right. In case of column, there are columns. Now, in case of column, this is how it looks like. Same y-axis and x-axis. In case of column chart, how it flows from top to, bottom to top. So here x-axis will play an important role. Here x-axis should have character value, y-axis should have numeric value. Vice versa, it should have. Bar chart will have different values. In case of y, it has character. In case of x, it had numeric. In case of column, in case of y-axis, it will have numeric and x-axis will have character value. Let me go back. Use a character value. That is the reason x-axis it is giving you first. I'll take that same component category here. I'll take that same component sales in y-axis. You can see both are same. Only views are different. This is left to right. This is bottom to top. Now, whenever you take any visual, first and foremost component, first thing we have formatted the page. If you take the first visual also, you have to format your visual. Only then you should proceed with some other visual. If you are formatting first visual very precisely, all other visuals can be formatted within few seconds. Now I'll go back to the home tab. Let's not consider the second visual first. I'll remove first bar chart. Let's consider only this. In this bar chart, y-axis, x-axis is there. There is one more component called as legend. So we would be discussing what you mean by legend. But for now, only understand x and y-axis. I've loaded this visual. Let us format this visual. I'll go back to the formatting. Here you can format the visual. Now, if I come down to y-axis, I can increase the size of the values of y-axis. Y-axis is this. If I increase the size, you can see value size is increasing. Bars are coming, they're going down. The size of bars is getting impacted. Why? Because the size of the values are increasing. Anyways, 10 is correct. If you want bold, see, it is bold in color. This is more interactive. This is more easy to understand also. Now, in case of y-axis, these are the values. You want to change the color, you always have a flexibility. You can change the color as well. See, I've changed the color. This looks more good. I'll come down to title. Title means this category. If you want to change the size of the category also, you can change the size of the category. Let me increase the size. The font size is not that good. I'll go back and I'll use this one. Now you can see size will automatically increase. If you see here, for every chart, I've given you an explanation. This is how we would be discussing.
Okay.
What is the exact use case? What component should be used where? What is the best fit? What is the unfit? Everything I've covered for every chart.
All right. Thank you, Ritesh. Yeah.
So I would be explaining, we would be creating this for our batch also. Our primary aim today was to format, how to use the formatting, how formatting helps. That was our primary aim. Any more questions?
And here, Ritesh, here also that home insert modeling is there, no? Each field, what it will works and how it will go under. If you explain, it will be good. I mean, I don't know whether in future we will explain or not.
All you want in one day, I'll be explaining it.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll be explaining it.
Like sign in login grids, right? Once
Yeah,
after the pre-course is completed.
after next week, I would be sharing. Once we are good enough with the basic practice, then only that sign in option. See, why am I not sharing on the day 1 or day 5 also? If I share now, only 60 days would be left out. So I don't want to waste that 60 days.
Okay, it's a free cost, free of cost, like each license.
Free of cost for you people. It would be costing for KSR. They would be paying from their end.
Okay, so from our side, can we sign in and like just register? Is it possible from our side, like
No.
using general Gmail ID?
No. Using Gmail, it is not. Using your domain only. So you can see I've logged in with KSR.
Okay,
It has to be
working in one of the organizations. So can I use that
Yeah.
organization?
Organization you can use, but the thing is, if your organization get to know, that's your fault. But yeah, you can use it. If your organization is allowing you, then there is no problem.
No, did the organization need to pay or something, or else it's free for 60 days, as you told?
For organization, it will be costing, but they'll never ask you. If you're working professional,
Yes, yes.
you're working as a Power BI developer or as a data analyst somewhere or some other role.
Actually, I completed my Power BI, I mean, ETL data stage and
Okay.
Power BI support I was working, and my project is completed recently. That's why I
You
need.
can. You know, it seems you have a good idea, you can use it. There won't be any problem.
Okay.
Just to give you, I mean, that was the reason I've asked you the background. If you have a good, it seems you have a good understanding, you can always use it.
Yeah, okay. Fine.
But use it in your, do not use it in your personal systems. Never log in your email IDs in your personal systems.
Okay, in my work
Uh,
only I
in
need
your
to.
work, yes. If you use it here, then they will track you. How come you're using this in your own system that is not recommended? So it would be kind of escalation. So see, one thing, again, I'm explaining. If you want to log in with your office credentials, do not use your personal laptops.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
It
thanks.
would be an escalation. It would be a compliance issue. Use it in your laptops, in your office laptops. If office is permitting you for practice, any office will permit you. They'll always allow you for practice. So use it in your office systems, not in your local systems. In your local systems, we would be sharing email IDs.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ritesh.
Power BI, yeah. Can
Yep, go
Power
ahead.
BI, can they call as a data analyst also?
So see, there are usually three different roles in terms of data, which we are, and in part of data related aspects are. The one is data analyst. Now, data analysts include analysis of data. Now, analysis of data, which also means reporting of data, the Power BI, the Excel, the Tableau, or any other reporting tool which you take into consideration, is more a kind of analysis. Why? Because we are analyzing the data. Depending on the data analysis, we try to create multiple charts, multiple visuals, which will help us to make the decisions for any specific organization where they are, where their business is good, where their business is lagging behind. How can we improve ourselves? What should be our focus area? So that all aspects can be decided with this Power BI or any other reporting tool, which is more specifically a data analyst related aspect. Now, if you come into consideration of data engineering, in data engineering, there is no analysis of data. Data engineering is more about logic building behind the data, from where the data is coming, what amount of data we have, whether the data is very large, how can we make sure the data is easily processed. Data engineering is between data, it's prior to data analysis. Whatever data we get from a data analyst point of view, the data is being driven by data engineering team. And if you take an example, if last 10 years of data is being analyzed, that means the data is very huge. So in order to get that last 10 years of data, the data engineering team has to do all the logic building behind where the data is coming from multiple sources. It can be website, it can be any other data lake, it can be any other data storage systems where last 10 years means the data would be very huge. So how to handle that huge amount of data so that further data analysis team will create multiple reports. So more a kind of logic building, more a kind of handling bulk amount of data is specifically data engineering. And it is prior to data analyst. Now the last field is data kind of science or data kind of where the data science related experts come into picture. Now, what data scientists to do is it is prior to data engineering. Data scientists come first, then data engineering come first, and at the last, data analyst comes with the very last position. Now, what data scientists do, uh, if any organization wants to check last 10 years of record, that means data engineering team will get last 10 years of record. But how do they get that last 10 years of record? What should be the further analysis from where this data is being driven? They try to create multiple models. Some AI or machine learning models are created in the background. So with these models, kind of prediction, the data which we have seen since last 10 years. So these all data can be kind of the data scientist primary role is to create multiple data, machine learning models. So with these models, it will give us some prediction, it will give us some analysis, so that further the data is the data is dumped to certain storage system where data engineering team can take away, and then at the last, data analyst can create multiple reports. So this is the primary flow of data. Data scientists come first. Data scientist and data engineer work together because most of their decisions, most of the data is clubbed together, because depending on the data scientist models only, data engineering team will bulk load the data or bulk take the data, and further they dump it to some storage system, which can be further analyzed by data analysts. So data scientist, data engineering sometimes go hand in hand. Data analyst is at the end. Once the data is completely clear, the data analyst will take the data and he will try to create multiple reports. So this is the primary, or you could say the complete flow of data related rules. Any questions? Any other questions at the last? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Let's connect back tomorrow.